Hello there, fellow Criterion collectors. We have some new Criterion announcements to talk about, and there are some interesting things going on here, great films, but there are perhaps some better versions of these films available elsewhere, and some questions as to whether certain films should have had a 4K instead of just a Blu-ray. The first one of these is The Wages of Fear, the French suspenseful masterpiece from one of my favourite directors, Henri-Georges Clouzot. This has been well needed from Criterion because their Blu-ray came out in 2009, so it's over 15 years old at this point. And we knew this was going to happen because in the UK, the BFI have released a 4K disc of The Wages of Fear, which I just so happen to have right here. This came out earlier this year, and it is an incredible disc. This is actually one of my favourite releases of this year, and I have to tell you that the results of the 4K restoration, and this disc in particular, is incredible. So you have a lot to look forward to from the Criterion 4K release. All of the special features are carried over from the older Blu-ray release, although on Criterion's website it says there's a feature about the new 4K restoration, so that has obviously been added. And they have done new artwork for the release. Now, the one thing that's missing from Criterion's 4K disc, and this is going to cause so much discussion online, is that there is no HDR grade on their 4K disc, whereas the BFI disc has a Dolby Vision HDR grade, and this release looks absolutely incredible. So it does have me wondering, why have Criterion decided to not go with some form of HDR grade? It's important to note that the restoration was not done with HDR in mind. So with the BFI release, this is something that has been done after the restoration. Also worth mentioning about this BFI release, and why I think the Criterion disc is not going to be as good, is the fact that this is mastered by Fidelity in Motion, who are the best in the game at Blu-ray authoring. And we know Criterion's track record has not been perfect in that area. There have been many discs with compression issues and other nasty digital macro blocking things in the image. So if you're going to buy this Criterion release of The Wages of Fear next year, I'm sure it's going to be a great release and you'll have a good time with it. But if you're someone who is particular about HDR grades and wanting the very best presentation that's available in the world, then I have to imagine this is going to be the best. The next release to talk about, and another 4K upgrade from Criterion, is Michael Mann's Thief. This is a masterpiece. I absolutely love this film. An incredible performance from James Caan. You've got the Tangerine Dream soundtrack, incredible cinematography in this film. I absolutely love it. On Criterion's website, it says that it's from a new 4K digital restoration of the director's cut of the film, approved by Michael Mann himself. However, on the old Blu-ray, it also says this is from a new 4K digital restoration of the director's cut, approved by Michael Mann. So is it actually new as in brand new, or is it new as in just copied from this release? It's hard to say at this point, but what we do know is the new release is going to have a Dolby Vision HDR grade, so that will make the HDR fans very happy. It has the same spine number, the same artwork, the same special features. So it's all about the new 4K disc and what it actually looks like, but it has me very excited. Next comes something that I was not expecting at all, and it's a film that's very near and dear to my heart. One of my favourites of 1970s American cinema. It is Night Moves, starring Gene Hackman, directed by Arthur Penn. This is something I didn't see coming because I thought Warner Brothers would keep this one for themselves to release on 4K. Although we did recently have Performance announced from Criterion on 4K, so perhaps some of these Warner Brothers titles that were released on Blu-ray by Warner Brothers before might be popping up on 4K from Criterion. This film is a brilliant detective film. If you love private investigators and hard-boiled fiction and noir films, neo-noir films, and if you love Gene Hackman, this is one of his greatest roles. And I know it gets said all the time, but they don't make films like this anymore. We don't have the excesses of the 1970s Hollywood system, where a lot of money was floating around and we were getting a lot of interesting films from interesting voices. Those sort of risks are not taken today. It's going to be spine number 1255 in the collection. The disc has Dolby Vision HDR, and there are some archival interviews with Arthur Penn, as well as a new audio commentary and a new feature made for this release. So I'm so excited. This is perhaps my pick of these new announcements. I just can't wait for this one. Next, we have a surprise, and one for silent cinema fans. We have Charlie Chaplin's A Woman of Paris getting a Blu-ray release with a new 4K restoration, and this is the first time it's coming to the Criterion Collection. While we've had many Charlie Chaplin films in the Criterion Collection previously, this is one that is not one of his most popular titles, but this is a film where he was leaving his comedic roots behind, moving more into serious drama. And he was not the star of this film. He took a step back so that Edna Purviance could take the centre stage. And I think it's a brilliant film. I have a Blu-ray of this already. It's in this Charlie Chaplin box set from Curzon, which is 10 years old at this point. So I'm very intrigued to see what the new 4K restoration is like. It's the version from 1976 when the film was re-released. And I'm very intrigued as to why this hasn't had a 4K UHD disc, because I would have thought that Charlie Chaplin is a big enough name in the history of cinema to come to 4K, and this would be the first film from him in the collection that's getting a 4K disc. However, Criterion have decided not to do this. It could be a financial decision. This is not one of Charlie Chaplin's biggest films, so perhaps when they come to something like City Lights or Modern Times, those films could get a 4K upgrade. But for now, we're just getting a Blu-ray, and I'm very intrigued to see what the results are like. There are some new special features here, as well as some archival things that I think have been on previous releases. So it's one I'm definitely going to get, and I want to see how it compares to the old disc from 10 years ago. Then we have the film Choose Me from director Alan Rudolph, coming to the collection for the first time and getting a 4K release as well. Now, I have to admit, this is a film that I have not seen before, though it is on my to-watch list. So if you want some more information about this film, go to Criterion's website, see what they're saying about it, and check out some trailers online. But this is one I'm very excited to see coming to the Criterion Collection. And I do wonder if this is one that could get a UK release from Criterion, because it hasn't had a Blu-ray release at all, as far as I'm aware, over here. So the rights could be available for them, and it could well be one that we see coming next year. To finish off the new announcements, we have perhaps the biggest surprise of them all. It's the film Godzilla vs. Biollante getting a 4K release from Criterion. Now, this is a film I haven't seen as well, so I can't say too much about the film itself. At first, I thought they were re-releasing some of the Godzilla films from the Showa era box set that came out years ago. But no, in fact, this is one of the Godzilla films that came later on. This is one of the 80s Godzilla movies, which, to be honest, I'm not well versed in Godzilla history outside of the Showa era box and then more modern interpretations of the Godzilla character and story. So you can be sure that this is one I'm going to buy as well. It's a 4K restoration, which doesn't seem to have an HDR grade or anything like that, but the disc has a brand new audio commentary, and then there is a making of feature as well. And I do anticipate for my UK viewers, this could be one that gets a UK release as well, because again, I don't think this has had a physical media release over here yet, so those rights might be available, and we might well see that over here. So that was just a quick look at the brand new Criterion announcements and some of my thoughts on the films that I'm familiar with. Click the video that's on screen right now if you would like some more physical media talk, some reviews and recommendations from myself. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.